there in a few minutes. But before that happens, I want to follow up on another developing story. An IEBC Chief Executive Officer, Ezra Chiloba, is currently appearing before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee to answer to queries regarding the irregular 150 kits deployed to Burundi and the irregular procurement of electoral materials. This is listening to what he has to say.
Electronic voter identification devices. Examination of the contract signed on 11th December 2012 for the supply of the delivery, installation, configuration, training, testing, and commissioning of electronic voter identification devices revealed that 30,000 handheld devices, 30,000 SD cards, 30,000 carry bags, and 30,000 additional batteries were procured at $16,651,139.13. Examination of the clause 3.8 of special conditions of contract indicates that an upfront payment of $2.5 million through a letter of credit was mandatory before execution of the contract. However, the contractor through letter referenced 13 FT 002AA dated 16 January 2013 indicates that IBC had not issued a letter of credit, therefore proposed a change of specification to deliver a portable laptop solution. Although there was no new contract signed between the parties, correspondence indicates that the Commission irregularly accepted change in specific.
Allow me to interject, although that was not my intention.
Okay.
The Auditor General is reading exactly what we have.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what we need. What we need is once you indicate the audit query, then you tell us whether it's resolved or not. If it is not resolved, then you guide us on the pending issues. If it is resolved, you tell us why you think it's resolved. Then we determine as a committee whether that resolution is appropriate or not. I think that might be faster, because otherwise, if we start reading like this, I mean...
Actually, I thought we would agree on that, boss. Just help us understand if this item has been resolved. Before you want to read it. It's not resolved. Okay. It's not resolved. Go on record, please. Please go on record. So can we agree again on the procedure? Please go on record. Will only take us through word by word if the issue is not yet resolved. But if it is resolved, we'll summarize it. This issue is resolved, but was resolved in this manner. Then we proceed. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So can I continue reading from where I was?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Although there was no new contract signed between the parties, correspondences indicate that the Commission irregularly accepted change in the specification with the differences in price and the value of goods and services, and the contractor delivered portable laptops as follows.
That you can see.
You can see that.
Yes.
In the circumstance, it is evident that the value for money was not obtained in payment for $16,651,139.3 due to change of specification, inadequate time train, and therefore inability to effectively use the laptops during elections. Some officers of the commissions have been investigated for procurement violation by ELCC, and the matter is in court.
So, before we even get the response, can someone help me understand the value of this money in Kenya shillings? Very, very quickly. 1.6 billion. 1.7 billion Kenya shillings, according to the current exchange rate. Okay. Can we get a response from the Commission?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the auditor rightly points out, this matter is actually in court, and the subject matter before court is actually the issue of variation of contract without following due process. And in that regard, Chair, there's nothing much that we can do in that particular process, given that this was payment in relation to the 2013 election payments made in 2013. So, Mr. Chair, that is, I think, what I can bring forward.
Okay, now, notwithstanding the fact that this matter could be in court, this committee obviously is not aware because we have not been given any evidence to that effect. Or we shall proceed to interrogate it in the manner we deem fit.
And Chair,
And yeah.
Of course we cannot discuss a matter that is pending in court, but can we have the parties who are involved in this matter? Is it a criminal matter, or is it a civil in nature, and who are the parties concerned?
Mr. Chair,
yes.
This matter follows an investigation conducted by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission against the former accounting officer, as well as some procurement officials. So it's a criminal case in relation to flouting of procurement.
Okay, but for record purposes,
yes.
I'm saying we shall assume we aren't aware about any court matter, because unless the evidence is brought before us as a committee, we aren't here to speculate. And I've said we shall proceed to interrogate it in the manner we deem fit. Yeah, so just hold your horses. Yeah, and my first question, just for record purposes, is was this full amount, the full contract amount of $16,651,139.13 paid by the IBC?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This amount was paid in 2013.
In 2013?
Yes.
Could you confirm to us who was in charge as the CEO then? Again, for record.
For record purposes, yes. The accounting officer then was Mr. James Oswago.
And could you also make us understand who else was involved in the procurement process? Which other officers, apart from Mr. Oswago?
Mr. Chair, there were other procurement officials at the time, some of whom I've actually, I never met them. So I got in the organization in 2015, but they had already left. Perhaps is to pull out the charge sheet from the court, then I'm able to detail
Not
that.
the charge sheet. The IBC has got a procurement process, a system. Yes, that indicates who is in charge, who is responsible for doing what. At that point in time, in regard to this particular procurement, which officers, apart from Mr. Oswago, were involved? And the reason why I'm pursuing this line. And as you consult, you just need to remind you of the provisions of Article 226, sub-Article 5 of the Constitution. I'm very sure you are conversant with it, Mr. Chiloba. And for avoidance of doubt, it provides that if the holder of a public office, including a political office, directs or approves the use of public funds contrary to law or instructions, the person is liable for any loss arising from that use and shall make good the loss, whether the person remains the holder of the office or not. So that's why we want to know the full identities of these persons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And on the same, about identities, could we also know the entity which was paid this money, and probably the directors of that entity?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the other officers in the procurement unit, then we had one officer called Willie Kamanga, and the other one is okay. The other one was the director of finance, Mr. Karisa Kenga.
Mr. Karisa Kenga.
Yes,
and
they're no longer with the commission.
Yeah, regardless. Yeah.
And the company that was paid this money was FACE Technologies Limited. It's a South African company, Mr. Chair.
FACE Technologies, based, FACE is FACE.
faces.
Based in South Africa.
Yes.
Before I pass on to my colleague members, finally, Mr. Chiloba, was there any role played by the commissioners in this procurement process? By one or more commissioners of the IBC then? Or do they have a role to play, for that matter, in the procurement process?
Mr. Chair, maybe to also clarify that this issue was actually subject of a special audit that was conducted by the Auditor General in 2014. And the special audit report was actually presented before this committee in 2015 and 2016. And the issue as to whether the commissioners participated or were involved in that particular procurement is actually documented in the proceedings that were before this committee. There's one group of which was basically the Secretary at Arms said, we got approval from the commissioners, and the commissioners said, no, we were never involved. It was the accounting officer's responsibility. So at this point in time, Mr. Chair, I will say that the Special Audit Committee was presented here, and I don't know what decision the PAC committee actually made with that.
We are aware.
Thanks.
Yeah. My only issue is for record purposes, even if we leave that one aside. Has the procurement process since changed in the IBC? Now you speak as the current CEO.
As the current CEO, Mr. Chair, I got into the commission at a certain historical moment where many issues around procurement systems and weaknesses were the subject of discussions across the board. And our effort was actually to strengthen the procurement system for this, to ensure that there is greater accountability in the way we used our resources. So in terms of decision-making, Mr. Chair, we've always had, I've had the opportunity to work with two commissions that span in a very short period of time. From where I sit, Mr. Chair, the law is very clear in terms of responsibility when it comes to the procurement process. In terms of decision-making, we've gotten to a point whereby, with the current commission at least, where on critical matters sometimes you find that subject is being discussed at the boardroom level. But in terms of actual accountability and procedures, we have stuck to the procurement rules and procedures.
So what is the current practice? Is the commission involved in procurement?
Mr. Chair, I would say that the area is still very gray from a very practical point of view. If you ask me, when I joined the commission and I found that these matters of investigations were going on, the commission were very clear, commissioners were very clear that they were not going to be involved in matters procurement at any point other than the approval of the procurement plan as required by law, and of course getting the updates, quarterly updates as expected under the law. But later on, when we got into the transition period, the current team, of course, wanted to be appraised on a frequent basis in terms of what was going on, especially on critical decisions regarding procurement. But in terms of whether or not what they thought was going to impact on the procurement process, our role was, our advice has always been, there's a law that guides this particular process. You can only make your own suggestion, but that suggestion must never affect the procedures that have been laid out in the procurement process.
Okay, thank you. Members, starting with the Vice Chair.
Thank you. Jessica Mbalu, the Member of Parliament, Kibwezi's constituency for Second Lake, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Public Accounts Committee. Maybe to put this committee in some understanding, who proposed the changes of the specifications? Do you feel that it was within the law? And what advice? Was it in the procurement plan?
We'll take a round of questions.
I want to go back very quickly.
Any point of order?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest that given the nature of this matter and the multitude of questions, rather than we take one member at a time, so that one member exhausts their question on that query as we come round and the answer, so that if by the time it gets to me, they've answered what I wanted to raise, then I don't have to raise.
Okay, that can also work, yeah. Good. Please respond to the Honorable Jessica Mbalu's question.
In terms of the change of specification, we have actually documented the process that led to the changes. If you look at the attachments, what happened is that when the Commission failed to honor the obligation to issue a letter of credit, the company that was supposed to deliver made a proposal to the Commission and told them that given the strict timelines that they have towards the election, they had no choice but to change the specifications of the solution that we're going to provide. So that was presented before to the accounting officer, that is Mr. James Oswago, who later on briefed the Commission about that. And the Commission, I think, is minuted in the minutes of that particular time, saying that, you know, if any changes are going to take place, make sure that you do so, but follow the procurement procedures. So eventually, that's what led to the delivery of the 30,000 laptops.
Okay, Honorable Bunyasi, then Honorable Janet.
Chair, the question, I'm going back to the question the Chair asked, and I'd like the Chair to be released from Junet's so that we can, because I think it's a very fundamental matter, who carries what responsibility. I'm not satisfied with the explanation of the CEO on the role of commissions, because he asked a generic question.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, as we finish totally with IBC, this question will come back to us over and over. So through the Chair, Mr. Chiloba, I think it's very important that the committee is clear. The structural relationship between management and commissioners in respect of decisions that affect procurement. Now, you have explained it, if I understand you, that it's purely as within the law, commissioners have no role. Now, if we can take that. Either way, however we take it, is going to be very important for us as we proceed. I hope that the rules then won't change along the line. Yeah. That we know who bears what responsibility. That's the only thing I'd like to emphasize.
That's fine, yeah. Honorable Junet.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Honorable Junet, MP for Suna East and member of the committee. Chair, I want to ask the CEO that the procurement of these products were done in the year 2012. But we are discussing audit report for the year 2014-2015. And the amount of money that is involved is not small money, but I see $16 million. This is almost 1.7 billion shillings or more. Now, having audit queries raised by the Auditor General about the procurement that was done in the